If you're the owner of a 2019 and newer Sierra 1500 and you're looking to level your truck using high quality components from an industry leader, well then look no further than the Eibach Pro Truck Lift Stage 2 system that we have here today. Now when installed, this USA made kit will improve both ride quality and ground clearance on your Sierra, while also being able to comfortably fit a set of 33-inch tires thanks to the 2 to 3 inches of additional front end lift, again thanks to that adjustable coilover design. Now this will also include a brand new set of springs here and matching dampers for the rear, along with billet top hats, all for right around that $1,200 to $1,300 price point. All right guys, so let's break down this kit here and talk about what you are receiving. And the Eibach Pro Coilover Kit is really just gonna be an extremely high quality method of leveling your Sierra at home. Now, even though Eibach technically refers to this as a lift kit, interested GMC owners shouldn't really expect much or any of a lift in the rear, as there's really no included blocks or any hardware that would contribute to a higher rear end height. Instead, what this kit will include is a brand new set of coilovers for the front that in this case do have some adjustability thanks to that threaded design here. I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 inches of added height depending on your particular truck. Now, even though Eibach doesn't give us any exact specs on tire fitment, I would say a safe and recommended size would again be that 33/1250 with some bigger sizing possible depending on your offset, of course, and your tire width. But aside from bigger wheels and tires and more ground clearance, Sierra owners should also look forward to a much more improved ride quality and more specifically, a more planted and controlled truck both on and off-road. And that is something that a lot of our customers have mentioned in the customer review section. Now, as far as your construction is concerned, well, for starters, the entire kit has been both designed and built right here in the USA using high quality components. Now, both front coilovers along with the rear shocks do utilize a true monotube design with an internal 46mm piston here and a nitrogen fill. Now, that coilover up front here is equipped with a set of Eibach's proprietary off-road race springs, which should help contribute to a little bit more control and a little bit more off-road capability, along with a sportier, I would say maybe firmer ride quality on the road. Now, the bodies of those dampers along with the mount up top here will utilize an anodized T6 aluminum build, and the entire system here has been given a limited lifetime warranty from Eibach, which is a bit of a rarity in the suspension world and is just a testament to the quality of the components. Now, moving into price point here, guys, and the Eibach Stage 2 kit coming in at or around that $1,200 to $1,300 level will make this kind of your middle of the road option in the pricing spectrum, kind of between those more budget-friendly puck style leveling kits on the lower end, all the way up to kits like the Fox Factory race coilovers that will round out kind of that higher end of the pricing spectrum. Now, if you did want even more off-road performance, but for a small increase in price overall, I'd certainly recommend checking out Eibach Stage 2R kit, which does kick in some piggyback rear shock, along with similar coilovers that we have with the Stage 2 here. All right guys, last but not least, let's talk install, and the site's gonna go with a soft 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter here, calling it at least 4 hours to complete from start to finish. I will say one of the nice things about this kit is that everything's pre-assembled for you, so you're simply just yanking out your factory coilover assembly, installing the Eibach in reverse order. Shocks in the rear are simple 2-bolt jobs. So even though that 3 out of 3 wrenches might seem a bit daunting, don't let it overwhelm you. Now, regardless, to give you a better idea of just what might go down in the garage or driveway at home, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a couple different sized impact guns, an electric and a hand ratchet, a hammer, 15, 18, and 21mm ratcheting wrenches, a flathead screwdriver, an extension, 10, 15, 18, and 21mm sockets, 21mm swivel socket, a pry bar, and pole jacks or jack stands.
What's up guys? Today we're installing a lift kit on our Sierra, so let's get started.
So starting with the front, the first thing we need to do is take a 10mm socket to remove all of the brackets holding in our brake lines, ABS sensor, and our brake pad wear sensor. So now we're gonna start on the rear facing side of our knuckle. We're gonna remove this 10mm bolt that holds in our brake line. We can come down to our brake pad wear sensor, Don't think this is going to be an issue. You can unplug this if you have one. You're just going to slide this gray locking tab up and then press down on it to pop that out. And then we're going to get the one on the back of the knuckle too. It's a little bit hard to see. And then once I pull a bolt out, I'm just going to move the bracket out of the way and put the bolt back so we don't lose it. So now we can take that same 10mm socket to remove the brake line bracket at our upper control arm and the forward facing one on our knuckle. Next, we can remove our tie rod end. We have a 21mm nut. I'm going to get a 21mm socket on. And then we can take a hammer and strike the side of the knuckle here to break up some rust. And then we can just tap from the bottom to pop it out. Now you don't want to hit very hard on the bottom here because you don't want to mushroom the stud. So we'll start off with that 21mm socket. And then I'm just going to take a hammer, give some taps to the side of the knuckle here, and then once we've got it broken up a little bit, a couple light taps on the bottom. Now we can come to the bottom of our lower control arm and remove our two 15mm bolts holding our lower strut mount in place and the 18mm nut holding our sway bar end link. And then I'll switch to a 15mm socket for our two lower strut bolts. Now I've got a pole jack supporting the weight of the lower control arm here. Now next we can disconnect our upper control arm ball joint. I'm gonna loosen up this 18mm nut. I'm gonna get it to where it's hand tight, and we're gonna leave it on there a few threads, and then we can tap the side of the knuckle with the hammer again until that breaks free. And then we'll get a pry bar on the upper control arm to bring it down so that we can fully remove that nut. Just put that on a few threads, and then just grab your hammer, start giving it some taps. And then once that pops free, you can go in with your pry bar and remove the nut and disconnect the ball joint. Next, we can go to the top of our strut and remove our three nuts up here. First, we're gonna have to pop off this clip. It's onto our studs. So we can just pop that up and out of the way. And then you can grab your 18mm ratcheting wrench and remove these nuts. And now we can fully remove our strut. Now before we install our new struts on the truck, we are going to have to transfer over the two clips at our bottom mount for our bolts to go through. So I've got a flathead screwdriver. We'll just get behind it and just pop those out and then press them in on the other side. So now we'll just get in that little groove with our flathead screwdriver. Pop out our clip. And then we're just going to transfer those over to our new strut. And now do the same thing for your other strut, and we can get these on the truck. So now we can raise our new strut up into place. And I'm just gonna thread our nuts on hand tight for now. Now we can come to our lower strut mount and take our 2 factory bolts and thread those up and into our strut. And now I'm gonna raise up on our pole jack to get that threaded hole to start lining up with our bolt. And once that's all nice and lined up, I'm gonna take a 15mm socket on a ratchet. Start this by hand. And then with one in place, we can start manipulating our lower control arm to line up the second hole. And then same thing, start it off with a ratchet and make sure it's not going in at an angle. And then once those are both threading nicely, you can throw that 15mm socket on an impact gun and tighten them down. And now we can go to our upper strut mount and take a 15mm ratcheting wrench to tighten down our 3 nuts. And once we have those in place, we can reclip our bracket onto the top of our studs. So now we're gonna reconnect our upper control arm ball joint to the knuckle. Now we've got quite a gap here, so we're gonna have to walk this down and into our knuckle. I'm gonna get this up into place. And then we'll thread our nut onto the bottom there. And then we can grab our 18mm socket to tighten that down. So now we can reinstall our tie rod end as well as the forward facing bracket on our knuckle. And then we'll grab a 21mm socket to tighten down our tie rod end. And then we'll grab our 10mm socket to tighten down our bracket. Just make sure that that locating tab is in its hole. So now we can reinstall the rest of the brackets on the knuckle as well as our sway bar end link. So I'm gonna lift up on our sway bar to get that into the hole. Now you wanna make sure that your end link's in the hole on the other side as well, because once you tighten down one side, you're not gonna be able to lift the sway bar up to get your end link into the other side. So once you got it lined up on both sides, just take a pry bar and pry down on the sway bar to get the stud through so you can thread on your nut. And then take your 18mm socket and tighten it down. And then we can just reattach our brake line and ABS line brackets. And then tighten those down with a 10mm socket. And then just the same thing one more time on the upper control arm, and then we're done with the front. Make sure that locating pin is in its hole. Tighten it down with a 10mm socket. Now these coilovers are adjustable, so you can raise or lower them to fit your preference. Now at this bottom collar here, we have a bunch of holes, and then we have a spanner wrench that has a nub that's gonna go into these holes, and you can twist that collar to the left or right to raise or lower it as you please. So you twist it just like that. And then you can just do the same exact thing, going the other way.
Now moving on to the rear, we're gonna have to remove our shock. So I'm gonna start at our lower shock mount with a 21mm swivel socket and 21mm wrench to remove our bolt. Now, before you remove this bolt, you wanna make sure you have your axle supported. So if you're doing this on the ground, you can use a floor jack or a jack stand. I'm doing it on a lift, so I've got a pole jack here. So I'm gonna remove this nut, and then we're gonna try to pull the bolt out. If it's stuck, we might have to go up or down on our axle to get it straightened out so we can remove it. And now we can follow our shock up to our upper mount and take a long extension with a 21mm swivel socket to remove our upper bolt. And then we can remove our shock. So now we're ready to install our new shock. We're gonna have the shock body at the top mount, and then we're gonna have the boot at the bottom mount. So we'll just get our bolt through, start threading that in by hand. And then we'll grab that 21mm swivel socket on an extension to tighten that down. Next, we can get our shock into the lower mount on our axle. Now this one's gonna be a little bit more difficult. So what I'm gonna do is get a pry bar and put it in that mount. And then we're just gonna compress this and just walk it in. And once you have it in your mount, you can get your bolt in and push to the other side. And then you can thread your nut on and take your 21mm socket and wrench to tighten that down. And now we can take the included zip tie to zip tie our boot up onto the body. So we're gonna slide that on first, and then we'll wrap our zip tie around it. And then just pull that tight, and then you can take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters to trim off the excess of your zip tie. And then you can repeat the whole process for the shock on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Eibach Pro Truck Coilover Kit Stage 2 for your 2019 and newer Sierra 1500. Thank you for watching, and for all things Sierra, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.